Do we have exactly the tools we need to transform students' curiosity and happiness? Tools which have been proven by neuroscience and tested by high-performance coaches. Prynawn da, dwi'n hapus iawn o fod yma. Good afternoon, I'm Glenn Cosby. I'm a former head of sixth form and I now work at the University of Bristol. And I'm here to convince you that mindset skills can be taught, that they work wonders with young people, and I'll show you by teaching you my 3 core mindset tools for calm, confidence and consistency, and you can try them for yourselves. In the school year 2022 to 2023, 1.3 million children were referred to the Children and Adolescent Mental Health Service in England. That's 71% up on pre-pandemic levels. At the same time, 21.2% of children on roll in England were classified as persistently absent. Now, things have improved, but not as much as we'd hope. Students seem to be more stressed, more anxious, more distracted than ever before. But is this the whole story? Throughout that time, flautists have been practicing even when they feel frustrated. Dancers have been pushing past discomfort, even pain. Athletes have been turning up for training on cold, wet winter's mornings. Students, young people, always have and continue to show incredible commitment and resilience in pursuit of the things they love. So why not school? I think it's because the performers and the players know they have a choice. They know it's going to be tough, and they know they're going to make mistakes, but they're guided to push past the failures and the discomforts. They're guided to come back to the present moment, to keep trying and to not give up. Now, has anyone here ever procrastinated? Okay, I know I have. My particular weakness is falling in rabbit holes in YouTube. As a teenager, I absolutely loved learning, but I hated school, and I did the absolute bare minimum of homework. I think I was terrified of failing, terrified of disappointing. Ironically, the turning point came for me when I went back into school, specifically as a head of sixth form, and I watched Ken Robinson's TED Talk, Do Schools Kill Creativity? I was flabbergasted. Were we as educators actually suffocating confidence? Were we stifling curiosity? So the next day I had a sixth form assembly and I asked the students, put your hand up if you think school has taught you it's wrong to make a mistake. Almost every single hand went up. I was gutted. And this isn't just school kids. At the University of Bristol, I train brilliant student ambassadors. Some of these guys are medics, engineers. They have achieved the best possible grades at every stage, and they are still terrified of failing. They still battle constantly against imposter syndrome and procrastination. If you know any young person who's been through a big exam recently, or if you live with one, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Not too long ago, a neighbour's son of mine's hair started to fall out because he was so stressed about his maths. I'm not talking about his maths A-level or his GCSE. This was his maths SAT in year 6. He was 10. I'm not sure that we take the consequences of this exam stress anywhere near seriously enough. And I recently discovered a brilliant book by a primatologist and biologist called Robert Sapolsky, and the book's called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. Okay, so I want us to picture the savannah and meet Phil, the zebra. Now, Phil regularly eats and drinks very close to cheetahs and lions, and he can stay utterly calm until a predator makes a move. Then his sympathetic nervous system kicks in fight-flight mode, and he will run or fight surprisingly aggressively. The second that he's escaped, Phil calms back down. His parasympathetic nervous system kicks in, his heart rate slows down, his breathing normalizes, and he can go right back to grazing. Zebras don't get ulcers because they don't get stuck in stress. We do. Phil doesn't feel like a victim or wonder what he did to provoke the cheetah. Phil doesn't worry that the other zebras think he's got funny-looking stripes. We compare ourselves endlessly. We stress, we worry, and we get stuck in that stress. And we constantly compare ourselves to others, and we do that from a very early age. So, what should we teach young people about stress? In her TEDx 2013 TEDx Youth talk, the neuroanatomist, Dr. Jill Bolte-Taylor, explained that emotions are reactions that last for less than 90 seconds. From the thought that triggers the release of the hormones until the hormone flushes through our system takes less than a minute and a half. I'm sure that's how long all of our recent supermarket or road rages lasted, right? A minute and a half tops. Actually, emotions are brief physiological reactions unless we feed them or suppress them. The 90-second rule tells us that we can and should teach young people to feel the feeling, to allow the feeling without judging it. Then, once it passes, they can regulate by taking a deep breath, calm themselves back down, and choose how they'd like to react. So let me teach you how I teach young people to calm. Firstly, we need to understand that calm is not the absence of emotions. There's nothing wrong with us for feeling. Calm is the habit of allowing the emotion without judging it or pretending that it's not happening. The tool I teach is called dropping, and it's taught by the Tibetan meditation and mindful teacher, Tsoknyi Rinpoche. So we're all going to do it. You're all going to join me. The dropping is a sort of sigh, shrug, and drop, like, can you all do that with me? 1, 2, 3. Okay. After you drop your attention from your head into your body, and you breathe slowly and deeply, feeling your chest expand and fall. Okay, so we're going to drop and breathe. Breathe slowly in for 4. And then out for 4, feeling everything relax as you breathe out. As you breathe out, you might feel a bit more relaxed. You might also feel a little bit more perspective. That's because the parasympathetic also turns back on the prefrontal cortex. That's the part of our brain which can think rationally and calmly, which can regulate thoughts, emotions, and our impulses. This is a muscle, and the more we practice it, the more easy it becomes. Brilliant idea, Glenn, but does it work with students? Well, the Myriad study in 2012 looked at the effectiveness of mindfulness-based techniques in schools for 8,000 students in the UK, and they found these 3 conclusions that I'd like to reflect on. Firstly, they found clear evidence that it has great potential for many students, but they also found that it's quite difficult to teach well, and that it's quite difficult to get students to buy into it. And let's be honest, fuss up, how many of you didn't breathe deeply at all? You just kind of pretended. Yeah, so do most of my students the first time I coach them. It doesn't work unless you breathe really deeply and slowly. And we all know this. Yeah, breathe deeply, breathe deeply. But you actually have to really concentrate on doing it properly to get the effect. Now, I know my students can breathe because survival rates of coaching have been 100%. But getting them to breathe slowly and deeply enough to actually find calm, well, that takes a relationship. That takes a confidence and a trust that's built with rapport. My second core tool is confidence. Now again, confidence isn't only thinking positive thoughts. Confidence is the habit of accepting and allowing the negative thoughts and then reframing them. I call my tool the ABC. So the A stands for allow. Accept the feeling, don't judge it, don't beat yourself up for thinking the negative thought. We're human, it will happen. B is for breathe, of course. Take a slow, deep breath, and then C is for change the thought. Replace the negative thought with one with a growth mindset. So, I can't do this becomes, I can't do this yet. Another one I love is name and reframe. So, when you think, oh, why am I so useless? You stop, you take a deep breath, and you say, this is difficult. I can handle difficult. Does this work? Now, there is a study that was done by the OECD into students who actually are displaying the features of a growth mindset. It was in 600,000 students across 78 countries. They found that in all 78, students scored higher on reading, maths and science. A great number. I love this one more. In 77, they felt less fear of failure. The third one's less impressive statistically, but even more emotionally important. In over half, they were much more satisfied with their lives. The third tool I teach is for consistency. So again, we start by clarifying that good students aren't robots. They don't always feel like studying. Motivation and willpower are not where consistency comes from. Consistency comes from habit. And so the third hack is called Just For Now, Just This. It starts by noticing I'm bored. I can't be bothered. I feel stressed. I feel anxious, whatever. Then you take a deep breath. You identify the smallest chunk of work you can commit to right that second. For some, that might be 5 flashcards. For others, it'll be 5 minutes or a 25-minute Pomodoro session. I love those. Whatever it is, you notice that you're distracted or you notice you're trying to get going and can't. You take the deep breath, you set the timer, and you say to yourself, just for now, just this. Starting and restarting becomes a muscle memory. And with practice, like other muscles, it gets stronger and more enduring. Why is it so important to be calm and confident first? Well, if I'm honest, every single student I've coached wants to jump straight to the higher level skills. And I do have tools that help with effective revision or with prioritization. But the thing is, if they can't get past their feelings, if they're stuck in a hormonal hijack of fear or anger, then they can't think properly. If they can't be in the present moment, instead of thinking, I wish I was somewhere else, I wish I was doing something else, or worse, I wish I was someone else, they're never going to take action. The three muscles go together. Regulation through deep breathing to find calm, positive thinking through reframing for confidence, and then practicing starting and restarting by taking just the next small step. That's why this works. That's why we can turn practice into muscle memory. Muscle memory can then turn it into a habit, and habits are so much stronger than either motivation or willpower, and infinitely more effective than nagging. Does this work for everyone? Well, some of my coachees have diagnoses of ADHD or autism. Now, I know for a fact, my experience has been observed over years, some people find it harder to get started. Some people find it harder to stay focused. But I also know it's harder to be calm if you're scared or hungry. I've worked with primary students, secondary students, postgrads and undergrads, and I think the same is true for all of us. It's very difficult to work independently if we don't feel some control. If we feel that our education is being done to us, then it's not our education. That's why this works. Let me share my results that I've had from recent trials. So the academic self-efficacy scale is becoming a sector standard. Essentially, that just means self-confidence for learning. Students are asked to rate their own confidence in these 5 areas. Can they complete assignments, understand difficult ideas, learn all the material, do the hardest work, and remember what they've learned? And they rate on a scale going from not at all confident to extremely. Now, I can't visualize that at all because that's just a ton of words. This is a spread of equal answers. So let's say one answer was a not at all confident, one answer was slightly, somewhat, quite, and then one answer was extremely. So that balances out to 0% confidence, okay? This was the first cohort we trained. Their confidence rose by 66%. Now I thought, this is amazing. That maths doesn't work, is it? That's 44. I'm getting my numbers mixed up. That's 44%. So I thought, this is amazing, but we need a control group. So for the second cohort, we had another group who answered the exact same questions twice at the beginning and end of the period in which the other cohort were coached. Their confidence rose by 12%. So there was a natural growth in confidence as they progressed through the year. Compare their 12% to a 61% increase in confidence to the people who were coached, and they were coached for less than 2 hours. I've tested these tools with primary school, secondary, undergrads and postgraduates, and I'm convinced that we have access to a way of making students feel control. We can shape a generation of learners who are more independent, more confident and happier. It's a massive task, but if we get this right, they will try harder, they will be more curious, and they'll have more fun. It's a big task, but it starts with us. So let's drop into our bodies, take a deep breath, and take just one small step. Thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr.